So keeping the Sabbath or observing the Sabbath, it can be hard to do it. And when it comes to trying to observe a weekly Sabbath, I find one of the most helpful things to keep in mind is that it was designed to be a communal experience. It's meant to be practiced with community support. And now by Sabbath, I don't just mean taking a little downtime when we maybe can squeeze it into our busy schedules. That's good, and that is Sabbath-like. But I mean the disciplined practice of doing no work for a full 24 hours. The need for community support in keeping Sabbath kind of explains why most American Christians today really fail to do it. Because remember, observing the Sabbath, it's one of the top 10, it's in the 10 commandments. It's right up, don't kill people and don't commit adultery and don't steal. But we treat it today more like it's maybe old fashioned or unnecessary or even impossible. It's just unrealistic that we could take 24 hours of rest. Or maybe even most of us don't give it that much thought. We do have weekends, but for many of us, weekends are a time that we just do much of the other work we didn't do all week because we had to do the work we get paid to do. Many people have a things to do list for home that is never complete, and that's the work we do on the weekends. But keeping a Sabbath is not about doing other kinds of work. It's really supposed to be about ceasing our work, ceasing productivity for 24 hours. And when we try to do that alone, we will almost always fail because Sabbath really only works. It was designed to work with the support of other people, the support of a community who are all in it together. And that's why Jesus and the Pharisees were always arguing about it. Because it's not only a commandment, but it's a commandment that everyone had to do together. You can refrain from stealing all by yourself. You can refrain from killing people all by yourself. You can refrain from committing adultery all by yourself. But most people can't observe Sabbath by themselves in a really meaningful way. So if you have to do it as a group, then the group has to decide the rules. Everyone has to agree on what is work and what is not. And guess what? The devil is in the details. The Pharisees in our story were right. They were right. They're not supposed to harvest grain on the Sabbath. One of the primary purposes of the Sabbath is to protect the poor from exploitation. It was the earliest labor law. It was guaranteeing at least one day a week when masters could not require servants to do any work. Sabbath was not just about stopping yourself from working, but stopping yourself from making other people work. I mean, what's the point if harvesting grain is going to be allowed on the Sabbath in a society where some of the poorest people are the ones who are going to be doing all the harvesting? So the Pharisees were right to try to draw a line here. But does harvesting grain include poor people picking grain themselves right off the stalk to eat it? That's what they're arguing about in our passage this morning. Healing was also not allowed on the Sabbath. Now that might seem strange or callous, but think how many people it takes to run a hospital for a day in our modern time. Healing is work. Faith healing was the medical system of Jesus' day. You either went to the village wise woman for herbs or the faith healer. So the healers were working when they were doing their healing work. But if someone is suffering, how much should we just let them suffer in order to preserve this Sabbath principle? Where do we draw that line? That's what they were arguing about in our passage this morning. Jesus seems to be saying that whenever there is any question about what is acceptable on the Sabbath, we should err on the side of compassion. And that's beautiful. But the Pharisees seem to be saying that that's a slippery slope. And to be fair to the Pharisees, it does seem that modern Christians have confirmed the Pharisees' fears. If you don't hold the line on what you can and can't do, people will eventually stop following the Sabbath entirely. I've often thought it would be helpful to really have at least a small group of people to work together on keeping a Sabbath, to support one another in Sabbath keeping in our modern times. Maybe not every once a week, maybe just to try it once a month or something like that, an experiment in Sabbath keeping. However, for that to work, the group would have to decide what was allowed or not on the agreed upon day or days. It would be hard to feel supported by a group in which one person was checking work email every now and then and going shopping, while another person was trying to not use any screens at all and avoid driving. Here's a partial list of the things the group would need to decide and discuss beforehand. Is cooking allowed? For some Jews, it's not. You do all your meal preparation the day before, so you don't even have to cook on the Sabbath. Well, if cooking's not allowed, can we eat out or can we order in? Is driving allowed? What about driving the kids to sporting events or birthday parties? That's a nice social activity. Shopping? Can we go shopping on the Sabbath? Can we pay bills on the Sabbath? Just get them out of the way so we'll free up the rest of the week. Can we file? Can we do laundry? Can we straighten up the house? Sure would be nice to have the house straightened up for the rest of the week. And then all these screens. Can you watch TV on the Sabbath? Can you use the internet on the Sabbath? Can you do email? What about just personal email so you're connecting to loved ones? Cell phones? Can we use them as phones, at least, to call people? What about sending nice affirming messages on Facebook Messenger? Surely that's okay. What if we read books to rest? And reading is a common thing for Sabbath observance in many cultures. So what if you use an electronic device to read? Can you do that? Okay, what about going outside? Can we garden? Can we mow the lawn? Can we rake the leaves? When does that become work? Can we go for a walk? Most people would say certainly, absolutely. Can you go for a run? Well, if we're going to go for a walk or a run, can we go to the gym to do those things? And then when does it start and when does it end? It's kind of come unfettered from any particular day of the week. So if we're in a small group, are we going to decide what day it is? And is there any kind of group gathering on the Sabbath day for worshiping God, which is a big part of what Sabbath is supposed to be also? If we're going to gather as a group, can we drive to get there? Or can we Zoom to gather? And who's going to do the preparation for the service? If you live with family members, all kinds of issues rise up and sort of get duplicated and multiplied. What if the people you live with are not observing the Sabbath, but you're trying to? So I think all those questions illuminate how complicated it can be to practice not really just the Sabbath, but our faith. When something that seems like it should be as simple as resting becomes complicated, what do you mean by rest? But without those parameters, how quickly does it become just another day? If anybody's interested, I'd be willing to try such a group, but at the same time, it sounds hard. If we don't do that, if we don't try together, we can keep plodding away at our efforts as individuals to rest intentionally in some way, but know that the cards are going to be stacked against us, not just in a society that does not observe Sabbath, but trying by yourself to observe a spiritual discipline that really is supposed to have the support of a community is going to be hard. So my message for today is pretty simple. First of all, go easy on yourself on this. If we work too hard to practice the Sabbath, well, it kind of defeats the purpose. But also take it seriously. It's in the top 10 of critical spiritual practices for living a faithful life. And if you are going to give it a go, see if you can find some others to join you. It was never intended to be practiced alone. Amen.